You find you are changing, and as you are changing, your goals are changing. Your concentration is in a different area than where it had been. Oh, I don't know, maybe a year or two later, or 5 years later, or wherever you were walking, you're not walking there again. You have a new purpose. You are learning how to die. And though it terrified you at first, you're learning it's the way to live. You're starving that mortal mind. You're fasting from that. More and more the impulse comes to you to do one thing or another, and you find the courage. In fact, you're a little exasperated at times. You say, I don't want to do that. That's not in my direction. That's not my goal. I'm not moving that way. Something has changed. That's good. Now we are ready for a deeper learning. The Father has many plans for you. He can't reveal them until you are ready. So you only stand in your own way when you're not listening. Let us say you have a working relationship now. You understand that the Father is going to give you all you can hold. All that you are ready to prove. If you have a fear, you won't recognize it at first, but you'll find opportunities to prove that fear is not intended to be there. Some of the experiences you have may be frightening, but eventually you'll find that fearlessness replaces fear. Fear of not having enough. And fear will disappear when you find the invisible provides. You are shown all of these in the Bible. In the book of Revelation, they're very clear. Now you feel that, well, maybe there is some hope for me in the Spirit. And so soon you feel that you're on a white horse again. You're feeling great. You think you found something. You feel that I have push buttons into the infinite. Wherever I turn, things that I want to happen will happen. And you go around with the feeling that maybe God has come to you in such a way that you are one of the chosen. And that is sweet. It's a wonderful feeling. But it's only sweet in the mouth. It may not digest very well. And when you apply your newfound victory and start boasting about it, how wonderful God is treating you, you find something happens that the sweet experience in your mouth is bitter in your belly. That's the phrase they use in Revelation. Honey in the mouth, bitter in the belly. You thought it was going to be easy to make progress. Now it's even tighter than before, it seems. There seems to be something hampering your progress, and you don't know why. There are several things that are hampering your progress, and it's necessary to look at them, to understand them, and to do something about it. Jesus Christ did it when he said, "Woman, what have I to do with thee?" You will find that you can go just so far and no further until you realize that you were not brought into human birth. Woman, what have I to do with you? You're not disowning your mother. You're not disowning your father. But you're realizing that you were not born. A little more of this light is going on and more of this shadow is going out. After all, God can't be all, and you were born too. God is all is a fact. It's one of the immovable facts. That's why you're losing your mortality. The immortal Father is the allness, the infinite, and there's no finite you. One of the greatest so-called sacrifices you make is the realization that my mother and father did not give birth to me. They gave birth to a concept which I have been for some time. I must be true to what I am learning. There is no me. How could we teach this to those who are incapable of understanding the spiritual level of life? There is no me would seem to be self-annihilation. But it's part of the process of finding yourself. I wasn't mayor of Chicago. I wasn't the governor of Texas. I wasn't that important fellow who did this and that. I've just learned that there is no me. And it's very bitter in my belly. What am I going to do with me if there is none? Well, it's true, you don't know what to do with me. You have to surrender to the Spirit, which is all. You don't have to be buried, only metaphorically. The me that must be buried is to be buried out of consciousness. Many me's were buried in Jesus' time, and he'd come along and raise someone up. There was a transference from me to I. And inasmuch as God has given you his name, why not start using it? I. People won't call you I unless they know you very well. And start using I in terms that are relative to it, and start not using I in the boastful way, and in the inner sanctum never use I unless you mean I the Father. or I the Son. So that when someone looks at you, they can see more of the I that you are shining through. The light is being turned up a little. When you're willing to make that changeover, it won't be because you've borrowed courage, but because there's nothing else for you to do. You know very well who you are, and you want the identity. And you're willing to stumble into and out into the world in that identity, though no one else knows it. So someone can say to you, I see you standing there, and there's no you in that form. None whatsoever. There's no life in that form. There's only I, and it's not in the form. The form is in I. Assume the nature of I. The name of I is only a beginning. Start out with the fact that I am the image of God. I am God-like. What I do must be worthy of my name. You can step out of character in just a little smidgen, and you're mixing divinity with mortality. And now your days must be eliminating that smidgen. I know it won't come over overnight. It'll remain bitter in the belly for some time. But there can't be an immortality in my being. Or I'm saying God is not present here, or God is 3/4 of me, or God is whatever percentage God is. And God is no percentage of you at all. As you go on, an astounding truth will eventually hit you. All of God is me. That's been the fact of you all the time, and it's been your destiny. And that's where you're heading. You begin to think of the things that you shouldn't have done, that weren't part of being God. And you realize, too, that they weren't done at all. They were just in the illusion. Anything that I have done that was not godlike, that was not motivated by the Spirit, was not the activity of God in me. And I am pledged to no adultery. I am pledged to the divine activity of God in me. And whatever I do other than that is the adultery. We're getting rid of Jezebel now. She has been very prevalent in our lives, less and less, still prevalent in the world, still making great prophecies. Like the world is shifting on its axis, these great prophecies of science are not worth the paper they're printed on, because when you discover that the earth is shifting on its axis, what are we supposed to do? We're going to put some weights on one side of the earth to balance it. I'm not taking these things lightly, but the authority of God is paramount. It has no rival. The world that is shifting on its axis is not the world that God created. And therefore, what is shifting on its axis? A concept. From one concept to another concept. And if this is better than the first, it makes no difference. Because we're not going to live in that concept. You are living independent of the world. And if you haven't learned it yet, it'll still remain bitter in your belly. You've got that work to do, to take and travel all the distance to eliminate all the belief that there is something beside God. And we can be caught in it so frequently that it becomes painstaking to each day. Remember, now what's out here beside God? All the images that I have built and you have built and the rest of the world has built, and these are world images. We must come into the realization of what the world images are. They're activities that are not divinely inspired, like the floods, the hurricanes. They seem to be good images in many cases. Then we're willing to accept them, but they're no more real than the negative images. There's no axis in the world. There's no world to have an axis. And the deeper you get into yourself, the easier it becomes to see that every scientific thought is just as good and just as bad as any other thought. Each scientific thought, each medical thought, each thought about the stars and the spheres is another decoy. You can get healed medically and die 5 years later. You can be in a world where the axis is this way and then get in a world which is another way and also die 5 years later. Each of the physical changes. It may safeguard your life for a spell, but let's get over the feeling that there's a me life. Because when there's a you life and a God life, there's not oneness. And oneness means the realization that I am the life of God. And that realization enables you to stand in the face of shifts, wars, typhoons, everything in the universe, until God has decided that the manifestation through you is now ready for an escalation or a new kind of manifestation. You are under God government as long as you're willing to be. But when you want to shift and say God doesn't control the world, that's fine too, because he doesn't. So stay in your rightful spot. And even though you appear as just a mortal being, don't let that appearance fool you especially. There are none. We have nothing to worry about This is not our world. We live in the kingdom which is under God government. That's the hard part too, to believe in it, to be willing to let it test you, and to find you fearless. Now, if you have successfully reached the conclusion that your birth was your first death, you are correct. Your first human death was your first birth. Sounds awkward, but you're told that there will be no second death for him who perseveres. And there will be no second death. For the one who has discovered that my first death, my birth, never happened. Do you see we are come in now into a completely changing sense of the world? Everything has changed. But do you see, nothing was arranged by you or planned by you. You're finally finding the rhythm to go with the divine tide. And you're making a change. But when you know that the change is one you must make, and when you begin succeeding in it, the bitterness disappears. You find you're walking opposite to what people are doing. You can't talk to them. Some people are capable of talking to them. But you find that there are some, a man on the street, what you're saying to him is impossible to say to him. He's too busy with his impressions of what the world is about. And we're all raising families. We all marvel at this beautiful child that's just been born. We're all so gloriously happy when it happens. But let's not lose sight of the fact that there's no glory in being born into a world. The only glory is being born into the kingdom. And let us be sure that we teach that child that it does not begin to gather these complex concepts that have to be honed out of him as he grows up. We all have these concepts in us. And this world is the place where we are walking through in order to exchange these concepts for the truth of I Christ. I Christ is your secret. It is your secret self. And everything that you saw in the life of Jesus was within you. Everything that he performed out there was within you. Because the Christ within you is the executor of the truth. The Christ within you and the word of that Christ is the complete secret of God's kingdom on earth. That word bears with it the power, the wisdom, the love. All of the infinite is in the Word of God, coming through the Christ in you. That's where you find the Word. If it doesn't come from the Christ in you, you haven't received it. This is a tight, perfect, absolutely foolproof method of teaching man the Christ message. The Christ within himself is both the teacher and the student. I Christ, thou Christ. One Christ. There's nothing that you cannot do of a divine nature if that is what you are moving into, if that is what you are working toward. Doesn't matter how many times you've slipped. Success is absolute. But you must be willing to see no leaves on the trees for a long time. And know that the leaves will come. To see no fruit, but knowing the fruit is there. And you will discover that you are the fruit. The fruit you were looking for, out there, is you. You are changing to the divine image and likeness. At first, you're an invisible image. Slowly, the image changes. That which is inner becomes outer. As within, so without. Only now, the man or woman in the without, who has been metamorphizing into that which is the spiritual idea, is not entrusted with handling it. It's not your job. The doing of the invisible is what the world sees in you in the visible. Everything that makes you what you are in reality is in the invisible. You cannot even see yourself. And then grace appears from the invisible into the physical manifestation. And you are taken into heights of achievement which you are incapable of doing as a mortal. And that word becomes kind of yesterday's word. Where did it go? Well, my whole life is built around being God's child. There's no mortal here. Wouldn't that be a beautiful day when we can attain a measure of Christhood, a measure of awareness that I am the fullness of Christ? It will lift us right from this earth, transforming everything. And we'll be walking where we were a moment ago, but clothed in a different selfhood. We look exactly the same, right down to the scars. But we are clothed in divine raiment. Who sees it? Only the people who are clothed in divine raiment. Everything works under a different ordination. Everything is coming from the Word of God in you. That Word turns on every motor. You are anointed. You feel it. You are one of God's chosen. And you seem to walk alone, but there are invisible angels guiding you, always. This is what the Father has prepared for us. We are a generation about to walk into the kingdom of God. And for some of us, it will be within our lifespan. And then the lifespan will fall away. We are walking into eternity, and nobody knows the difference. You look just as you looked before. To humans. But we do change. Now you remember Paul's experience. He saw the Christ. The Christ welcomed him. He was lifted into his spiritual body. But there he was on the face of the earth, still carrying the message. Still not a very handsome man. Still maybe doubted by many. He went around Rome with chains on. But he was the invisible Christ, Spirit. So don't expect to look like Sir Lancelot. Or Lady Guinevere. But you will, in the Spirit, be completely like God, which is a fairly good way to be. Now this is what we're only moving into. We're taking all the burrs out of it, and you're going to feel those burrs. But the burrs will be important to you because the sting of Spirit makes you feel that something might be wrong. There's brimstone. But the brimstone is God's wrath, and the God's wrath is God's love taking you through. So let's have a lot of that brimstone. Everything is to purify you, to make you more and more the 100-watt bulb than the 40-watt bulb. And I hope you have courage. We may all need your courage, and each one needs the others. But more important than courage is the knowledge, the wisdom that gives you courage. Now, keep in mind these 7 steps, these 7 keys. Be true to them. They are your way through that invisible path where you don't use eyes. where only the unborn travel. Where only eternal being is admitted. And your pledge could be with the one who makes it all possible. I am pledged to the Father within to lead me. For only the Father within knows where I am being led. It matters not that it is a secret. It matters not that the path seems very precipitous. There is inner assurance all the way, especially when you least expect it, that someone is building the way for you. I don't think any one of us could walk that way unless we felt that way. I've got to do the footsteps. But someone is building the way, and something has given the confidence to each one who walks that way. I don't see where I'm going, but I'm going in a path that leads directly to the kingdom of heaven on earth. There are no road maps. It's something that takes hold of more than your brain, more than your heart, but it takes care of the heart, the invisible heart which is the soul, and feels right along this path. And everything it receives is an indication of where it must go. And it's not going through a place, through a material source. It's walking in the path which leads it to the Spirit of God, because it intends to, it doesn't know it, but it intends to have a marriage. It is moving toward the Spirit of God, and in time it will be seen that the soul and the spirit are unified. And that will be a great step above where you are now and even later. It takes human marriage, which is a symbol of the spiritual marriage, and it lifts us out of the area where we are in the world into a new kind of insight, because soul itself is so much higher than the human, and spirit is so much higher than the human. When you reach that wedlock, you're about to find that Christ will be born of that wedlock. Christ is born of the marriage of the soul and spirit. But Christ is being born is only a phrase. It means that the soul and spirit become aware of the Christ, which always was and always will be, and which is you. Yourself is attained by the marriage of your soul and spirit in the realization that we have now come to the place where we perceive the nature of our being. and it is Christ. All that the Father hath is in that child. Let's be still a moment. It's not difficult to see the day when each of us is appointed to bring truth to a household. I'll have one household, you'll have another, the third, and so on. And we fulfill ourselves by bringing that truth to the household. For as each one learns the truths that we are proving out to ourselves, the world changes. And as I said before, the new heaven and the new earth, the awareness of it is only in its infancy. But it is here waiting for us. We will find enough evidence of its presence in the way our life is handled by some other force than our own. And we'll say to ourselves, if this is only 1% of heaven, I'm ready for the other 99. There comes a day when Christ within you announces Christ. I am come. And then the joyful news appears in your face, in your walk, in your voice. You become the living embodiment of the divine self.